Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, um, I don't know if I should welcome people back after like a 2 year hiatus, but yo, people are traumatized out there, Gob. People are traumatized. As I travel, as I go through social media, there's literally bodies that you see that are as a result of trauma. We about 2 years ago embarked on a very special journey, which is very special to me, which is mental health. And initially, I actually thought only 5 people were gonna watch it because there's no gossip, there's nothing salacious, so I didn't expect anybody to watch it. But I was shocked when we got the response that we got, and we got the number of views that we got, and people would call, people would inbox. So thank you to the people that asked for us to do this again. Um, Here's a secret that I didn't tell you guys. So initially, before we started, I went to an organization that I've had a soft spot for, but it wasn't the right time. We tried to get these guys on board. Um, so we then went with Dr. Naeem, fantastic guy, and now we've decided to go back to the same organization. This organization is called PsycHealth, right? The reason why these guys were special to me is they have, and I'll not speak because I'm the dumbest person in the room. I'll have them speak, but they have got a whole bunch of doctors who specialize in different aspects to do with life. So whatever it is that you're going through, you'd have somebody that has specialized in that and who's able to speak to you about that. So we went back. I begged, I pleaded, and they did say yes this time. So we will be running with PsycHealth. For those guys that would come to me and ask me for numbers for a good therapist and whatnot. In fact, did you get a call yesterday, Dennis?
I did, yes.
See. For you people who come to me ask numbers for therapists, they will give you the number so you go and you speak to them and you don't have to come to me. So, enough rambling. This is my version of giving back because I'm not making money from this. In fact, I'm still paying. Yesterday, Gob asked me, so dude, when is my money coming? And he just said yes. Again, you didn't hear him. So, yeah, that's my version of kind of giving back. So, enough of my rambling. I'm going to introduce you to the lovely team that we're going to be running with. I don't know if we're going to be running with them every single episode or it's going to be one or two that'll be missing. We'll find out just now. So, gentlemen, ladies, welcome.
Thank you very much.
This will be your home for at least once a week for the foreseeable future. Okay. Hopefully, God willing.
Looking forward to it.
Great. So I'm just gonna introduce you guys and just kind of get a little into who you are individually, so people begin to, create a relationship with you guys individually. So, obviously starting with you because you're the closest to me. Chitua, we've got Denise, we've got Kuba. Yeah, you can start to tell us a bit about yourself, and I'd want to know why you guys went down this extremely difficult route to choose the profession that you guys chose.
Okay. Hello everyone. Hi Elson. Thanks for having us again.
Oh.
So like you said, my name is Chitoa Salasini. I am a practicing psychologist. I did my school, of course, here in Zambia, the motherland, and went abroad to do my master's.
Went abroad?
Yes.
Wait.
In the United Kingdom.
Ooh, fancy.
So
how come you didn't come back
Really?
saying, "Innit"?
I'm true to the nation. What do you mean?
There are people who they go as far as the airport and they get sent back. They come back saying, "Innit?" Yes, Iris, I'm talking to you.
Okay, so why did I pursue this career?
Yeah.
Okay. To be very honest, I was one of those kids that was always with the older people in my family. So I would be with my grandmas, I would be with my dad when we'd go to Chitente. I think that's like church kind of group.
Mm.
So I found myself always sitting at big people tables, if I can put it that way.
Right.
And as curious as a child would be, I would wonder like, oh, this is how they relate.
Yeah.
This is how they solve problems or issues or talk about things anyway. And then I think as I became an adolescent, I don't know how my grandmothers involved me in like family things. They say, oh, could you speak to your uncle about this? Like you go and ask. And I found myself all of a sudden being some kind of mediator. And then on top of that, my friends as well would always come to me if like they had trouble with something, they were confused about something. So I don't know. I was trusted with people's stuff. Yeah. It was natural it was natural. I didn't even realize it honestly. And then got to uni. I was going to do law, and then I think halfway through the semester. So at UNZA, there's a point where you list, what you're going to do. So they give you 3 options at the time anyway. So what I did was I didn't tell anyone, but I switched my options. So I put psychology first, then law. I can't remember the last thing. I think it was sociology. And so I found myself in a psychology class, and I'm like, yeah, I'm meant to be here.
And you enjoyed that?
Loved it.
Who was paying for the fees? They're not expecting a lawyer at the end of all this.
It was my lovely family.
So, but you had a conversation with them to say, hey guys, listen.
No.
You didn't.
I didn't. I said, if the love is real, they'll love me through it. And funny enough, when I was actually in the program, a lot of them were like, but where are you going to work afterwards? Like, what are you going to do? Because again, at the time, mental health wasn't as big as it is now.
Yeah.
So there was always concern as, are you going to make enough?
Yeah.
To have a living.
Right.
I chose what I chose, and here I am.
Right. Denise.
Okay, so my name is Denise Museche Karisilira Piri. Yep, it's a mouthful. It's a lot of names. I don't have room on my NRC, so my NRC is very weird looking because of that. But
they have to go to the back of the NRC
and squeeze the thing. So it is what it is. But yeah. I'm also a practicing psychologist, like Chitua. I also did my master's in the UK.
Oh, is that where you guys met, or you guys met here?
No, we met here.
Okay.
Yeah, we went at different times. I think she went before me.
And you still didn't come back with an accent?
No, unfortunately. All I can say is oi, 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 oi. That's about it. But, brah. That's about it. Similar to Chitua's story, I was already actually doing a different degree. So like most Zambians or African children, your parents would typically say, no, I think you would do well at this. You should do this. And so for me, I was basically enrolled into law school. So I did actually 3 semesters of law school. So in my second year, was having personal challenges, and I was privileged enough to see a psychologist at the time. And I think seeing that psychologist gave me the clarity I needed in terms of the direction I was going to take school-wise. And I did the crazy thing of dropping out of school. So I dropped out of school, law school, and of course it had consequences. So for a while, my guardians were not.
They were not talking to you.
They were talking to me, but they weren't really willing to hear anything about school and what I wanted to pursue. So essentially, that turned out to be a gap year. And in that gap year, I worked part-time. And I think one of the key moments during that gap year was I used to work with another girl, and we were sort of doing sales / marketing / sort of relationship management for a courier company. And, conversations we used to have.
You said courier or courier?
Courier.
Okay.
Courier company.
Company.
Yeah, so we used to have a lot of downtime, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So we would have conversations and just talk about life and everything like that. And so she made the comment and said, actually, have you ever thought about doing psychology? And, having had the sessions with my psychologist, I did think about it and said, actually, this is quite an interesting job to be able to help people and support people, through their life journeys or through the challenges that they might have. And so I think that actually was, the pivotal moment or the light bulb moment with that conversation I had with that girl. I don't know if she even knows the impact that conversation has.
She does now.
But yeah, Misha, if you're out there, really, I'm here.
Send your invoice.
Because of you. Yeah, and so that conversation led to me doing the research and ultimately enrolling into psychology. Unfortunately, my guardians agreed to pay for it again.
Because I can imagine the money that they paid for law school. How many years? 2 years.
Yeah, well, a year and a half.
That's enough to buy a Mercedes.
Yeah, and I was in Cape Town, so.
Eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yarr.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm grateful that, and it wasn't easy. I did have to convince them and almost like give a presentation and a pitch as to why.
Like a PowerPoint presentation.
Exactly, yeah. So, why that was the path for me and what my aspirations were and things like that. So, I had
That's
to be
incredible.
quite clear on what I wanted to do. So, yeah.
And how long have you been doing this now?
I've been practicing now for 5 years.
Okay.
So before that, obviously, when I graduated like 2, it was one of those things where it's like, what are you going to do with a psychology degree? So when I came back from uni, I did just work in other industries until I joined PsycHealth. And then, I've been there for 6 years or so.
That's a lifetime. How long have you been practicing?
7+ years now.
Wow.
My first point was actually China.
Was Chainama?
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard stories about Chainama.
It's not as people make it seem.
I didn't say bad stories. I didn't say I've heard
See
stories.
your face. That's why I'm reading your cues.
Yeah, we all have heard, like, I haven't been, but we've all heard stories about it.
You should go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take you.
Yeah.
Okay,
If
that's
we
fine.
can ask for a visit, we'll go.
It's a date. Kuba, my man.
Hi.
Yeah, over to you.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. And I'm very thankful for being brought here. It's very interesting. Before coming here, we had all sorts of mixed feelings, but I can see that it's going on well. Yeah, so my name is Kuba Kanyantaka Fuimbi. I have 3 names as well, quite long. And I'm a practicing psychologist, working with PsycHealth. And I feel like the ladies have already said most of the stuff.
Right.
Yeah, but then, of course, before I wasn't really into the field of psychology. I was in the hospitality industry, and I feel like because of me interacting with many people there, you have different people coming from different countries, in the hotel. Because then I work for Southern Sun, I work for Holiday Inn. I work for Intercontinental, and then also Fairview, where I actually even tutored a little bit. And because of speaking to people, you have all these people coming from different spaces. It's like naturally I discovered that I had the ability to listen.
Right.
Most people want to be heard. So to be a psychologist or a therapist, rather, you need to be a good listener. At that time, I didn't know that was a plus, and it would actually be something that would help me get into this space, because that's like almost 10, 15 years ago. When I was in the hospitality industry. And because of that, people kept on speaking about the same thing. Where is Mr. K? I need to talk to him. He's got a listening ear and stuff like that.
You must have been an amazing boyfriend, huh?
Well...
That's the one thing that women complain about. You don't listen.
You don't listen to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I would say that, I could have been.
Why are you doubting that?
Well, I wouldn't want to speak for them because I don't know what they,
Right,
had in their mind.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we're a villain in someone's story.
You know what I
After
mean?
what we
Yeah.
do.
So from then, I also worked for a transport company. That meant that I traveled, and that's one of my greatest achievements. I traveled all around Zambia, so that is, I've been to all the provinces before. So because of that, I got exposed to different beliefs and norms. I know we are one Zambia, one nation, but we have our respective systems wherever we belong to. Okay, so I got to understand that different people see things differently based on where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, before I could notice my father, because he was a psychologist, and he's a psychologist, rather, and he began saying, why don't you try maybe to do sociology? Maybe he was looking at the fact that I'm traveling and doing all these things. And it's then that I discovered to say, wait a minute, I think the things that I've been doing are actually aligned to me being in this field. And that's how I first went to UTH. I think there was a program that was running there, psychosocial. And I got into that. That was under Ministry of Health. From then, I started climbing the ladder, bit by bit. And then eventually, then I worked for UTH, pediatrics. Also, I was under FSU. Family Support Unit and Child Sexual Abuse Unit, that is CSU. where I handle defilement cases and so on and so forth. So because of that, I built up, and then eventually there was an ad with PsycHealth, and I applied. And that's how I found myself in this space.
And here we are.
Yes.
Nice. Now, how long have you been in PsycHealth now?
This is 2 years now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Into 3 years.
Beautiful. All right. So I have no doubt that with the three of you, we will be able to dissect any issues that are thrown to us. If there is any issues that you guys might have that you would want any of the three people that we have to sort of address, Gob will give you the email address that will appear on the screen. So do send an email. And throughout the episode as well, you will get a phone number. You will get a phone number where you are able to call in if you do need therapy. Because like I said, initially people would call me and say, hey, do you know a good therapist? So moving forward, you would be able to get access directly to PsycHealth. I will start with probably you, Dennis. Are you able to sort of break it down because one thing that I've always heard was, oh, you need to go for counseling, and you'd hear other people saying, oh, you need therapy. Is there a difference? Is it the same? And the two of you also can jump in. Is it the same thing? Are they different things?
So there are different things, and obviously we tend to use them interchangeably, but essentially there are some slight differences. So when we talk about therapy, it's a bit more long term. So it's a bit more long term and can include and cover, several challenges that the person is experiencing. Whereas counseling is more short term, so it can be anywhere from maybe 3 to about 12 sessions or so. And typically there's usually one major challenge that you're addressing through counseling. And it also means that the type of people that you see for counseling might be different in terms of professionals. So for counseling, you could see even what I think we always hear people saying, oh, I'm a psychosocial counselor, So typically those are the people who would offer counseling because it's more short term and it's usually targeting a specific behavior or a specific challenge that someone has come in with. Whereas therapy, more long term, and even some of the cases might be more specialized, but also definitely more, it can have several challenges. So I can have a client who has several different things that you're addressing or helping them deal with.
Going back to, and maybe Stuart, you can take this. Going back to therapy and it being long term, does it have to be a scenario where there is something wrong with you, there is something that you're going through, and you have to seek therapy? Who requires therapy?
Any and everyone. Short answer.
Yeah.
To expand, we like to say that the way health is the general health, right? The way it's based. There's always preventative measures, so like go check your blood pressure, use a mosquito net. There's all that because you're trying to prevent. If you don't, the consequence of
you shouldn't only go and see a doctor because you broke your leg.
Exactly. So the same way we like to say, if you just want to maybe track how your life is going. I mean, life goes different for different people, right? So just check in with someone. If you're curious as well about life stuff, mental health stuff, go in and speak to a therapist. Then there's of course the case where you're feeling off. You're not necessarily feeling like you're going crazy or acting wild, but you're just feeling off. It's also okay to just go consult and see how it goes from there. So no, it's for everyone, but you don't have to wait, to have something wrong.
Yeah.
You get some people, anyone of you can take this, just based off what you've just said, when you're feeling off, why really should I go and see a therapist, and why shouldn't I call Gob or Kalenga to tell them that I'm feeling off? Apart from them, obviously, just telling them, you listen, just go and drink, and giving you the wrong advice. Why should I go and see a therapist?
I like that you're saying wrong advice. So why would you make that comment first? Wrong advice.
Yeah, precisely, because the person that you're talking to is not a professional, right?
Therein lies the ding.
Yeah. You get some people who say, right, just go and get laid, go and get drunk.
Exactly.
You would,
Don't answer them. Who beats you?
Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you go see a therapist, you're going to see someone who's trained, someone with a skill set that, is quite multifaceted, multidimensional, and they know what they're doing for the most part.
Yeah.
And also the thing with mental health professionals, emphasis on professionals, they have a scope of expertise. So you'll find that so there are certain mental health professionals that are maybe they're inclined to one thing, trauma, for example, but they have that extensive training in trauma.
Yeah.
Then there are those who do grief. There are those who maybe add aspects of life coaching. And then there are those with a wide range of things that they could, help someone with. So they're trained. They have a developed skill set to which they keep on adding anyway. So it's better to get consult from.
Yeah. And I think even like just to add to that is this idea of bias, right? And how, well, if you think about as individuals, we're all very unique individuals, right? I'm Denise, you're Elson. We have different ways of coping and different ways of handling different situations. So if you came to me as a friend, I would speak to you from my perspective, from my experiences.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And that might not work for you.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll tell you, and normally when you talk to a friend, they will tell you what to do. As therapists, we can't tell you what to do, but we'll help you discover what to do, what you can do that's best for you, that suits you, right? And that you can follow through with. But a friend would tell you, oh no, Elsa, just go and do this. But that might not work for you, even though it worked for me. Yeah. So there's also that. So you should really just see a professional to avoid, those kind of challenges and those problems.
So you sort of touched this, but Kuba, you can take this. There's different types of therapists, right? Is it therapist? Yes, therapists. I don't know if you, because I've got a list that I'm looking at here. But do you off the top of your head know the different type of therapists? Because if we have Gob here who's recently married, can we still say recently? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That child could have come up before,
It's under a year, isn't it? Yeah, so it's still recently. So you have Gob who's recently married. We have Lewis here who's a virgin. They all have different kinds of backgrounds, and so do we have different kinds of therapists?
Yes, of course we have different kinds of therapists. That's the first thing to do it to start with. We have therapists who are qualified in different areas. For example, you look at me, I'm more inclined to dealing with couples, for example. Okay, so
that's Gob.
If Gob needs any advice or guidance, so to speak, definitely I'll be the right person for him to come and have a chat with. And we also have like my colleague Chtua deals with children. Yeah. So she's the best person that you would want to meet and take your child and have that session.
So what age range is this? What's a child?
The normal government under 18, but also young adults. It's extensive to young adults.
Yeah. So I think even in the field of psychology, essentially, there's definitely different professionals who you can see, who you can get help from, right? So I think in Zambia, maybe we know oftentimes you refer to, doc. So normally if you're referring to doc, that's usually a psychiatrist. So a psychiatrist is someone who has gone through medical school, so they are a qualified doctor, and then they've just gone and done a specialization or a residency in psychiatry. The difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist, in as much as we both deal with mental health and mental illnesses and disorders, is that a psychiatrist can prescribe medication.
And a psychologist?
Psychologists cannot prescribe medication.
Okay.
We can both diagnose, we can both offer therapy, but a psychologist can't actually give medication.
So a psychiatrist is like a psychologist pro max.
Essentially, yeah. And they tend to also deal with the more sort of like complex mental disorders. So if you've ever, like, I know we've all sort of encountered people that are, maybe in the streets that
even on social media, we all know them.
So we often refer to them, and not correctly, we often refer to them as mad people, right? So those typically are people who are, experiencing a quite complex or chronic mental illness. So those typically would be seeing a psychiatrist because most times they would probably need medication.
Got it. Do you guys ever scroll on social media and actually diagnose to say, this person here? Because I do. I'm not a doctor. But there's some people who I just basically see with their posts when they go live, like,
Are we okay?
are we safe?
I think the more experience you have in this field, the more you learn to sort of switch off.
So you do
I was
that.
going to say
Yeah,
that.
you have to switch off.
Otherwise, you'll need a therapist.
Otherwise, you will be overwhelmed and
And you need therapy yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing in relationships as well, you kind of have to switch off.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And
wait.
we're not, and here's the misconception, right? We're not perfect.
Right.
As much as we are trained and we know and we have this information, the skills that I might teach a client, right? I know those skills. If I'm in the same position as that client and I'm experiencing something similar to that client, it doesn't mean that I'll utilize the same skills. I'm also human, so there's times where I know what I should do in a certain situation, but I don't do it.
Yeah.
So I also need support. So sometimes I'll go as well to a therapist because as much as I know the information, I still sometimes need the support from someone else.
So if I walk into PsycHealth and I get to the reception and I need help, how does that work? Does the receptionist begin to ask me questions? Like before I know that there's Kuba, for example, right? Or I have got Chitua who deals with kids. I know what my problem is. I don't know if it falls under couples. Do I need to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist? How does it work?
Do you want to take that one?
Okay, since you asked about if you go into PsycHealth, so definitely the person at the front desk will ask of a presenting challenge. You don't have to go into the details of it,
right?
But you can scrape the surface, and you'll be handed like an intake form where now that's personal to you, so you can, jot down. And at that point, they would be able, from at least that first interaction, they'll be able to know, because the person at the front desk definitely knows our skill set as well,
Right.
or expertise. So they'll be like, okay, then I can assign you to this therapist. You can actually go online and, look at their profile, which is on our website.
Oh, nice.
And be like, okay, I'm fine with this. We also ask for gender preference sometimes.
Yeah.
Some people also have an age preference
Uh-huh.
of the therapist.
Yeah.
So we take all that into account, and then they're assigned, they get their first consultation. We also, do a post consultation. Are you okay to continue? Do you feel like you want someone else? Because the thing with choosing a therapist is you're not stuck to who you get on first point of contact. If it's not vibing, it's okay.
Yeah.
You can shop around and be like, okay, I think I'll vibe with someone else, or I'll click with someone else.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and the journey starts and continues from there.
Can you I don't know if you can or you can't, because you just spoke of being able to see the personnel or the doctor's profile online. Am I able to go online website and possibly, I don't know, in a nutshell, basically say what it is that I'm going through before I come in, or I would have to come in or make a call first?
So on your booking system, you can make notes. So if you go to our website, you can go through the profiles, and then there's also a section which allows you to book a session, right? So
Right.
if you've gone through the profiles and you think, okay, I think Kuba is the man for me.
Okay.
His profile, I feel like he has the right experience and
Right.
expertise. He's the one I want to see. So you go to the book a session section, and under that you would select the therapist that you want to see. So if you don't know yet, you can leave that blank. But there's also an opportunity to leave some notes and sort of, again,
That's what I was asking.
spread
Right.
the service.
Yeah.
Don't give too much information as well,
Right.
right? Just
Enough.
just enough so that we know, perhaps we can deduce sort of like, okay, this is sounding like this is a couple's, maybe issues in a relationship, or this is sounding like maybe this person is, going through depression, or this person is, has anxiety. So we're able to sort of deduce, but of course, we'll only fully understand once we meet you, once we've started building that relationship, once we've, started to unpack and uncover, everything.
Yeah.
We did touch on what therapy is. And, growing up black in Africa, especially, and I've been lucky enough to have traveled quite a bit. There's so many myths and misconceptions on what therapy is, who should go for therapy, is it expensive, is it for white people, is it bougie? And it's a big part of why I figured that I wanted to do this, because small background, well, for you, but for the people that have been watching the podcast, they know this, is I had parental paranoia. So when Eli was born, it wasn't about the money. It was about, how do I teach this little human stuff that I'm still learning? How do I not raise a totally messed up person? I don't think I'm well equipped to raise this child. So that's why I started to go for therapy, to begin to unlearn some stuff, to begin to equip myself with enough tools to be able to disperse in this little human. And it has worked wonders. How do I know this? Because when you release him out into the world, school, etc., the feedback that you get from people is, "Is this my child?" Right. So that's why I started. Right? People might have different reasons to want to do it, but that's what my experience has been. So, what are some of, I don't know, the myths, the misconceptions that you possibly had before you got into this, or that you've heard, that you've come across?
Okay.
And if you can take it.
Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, we know that many people say therapy is for white people, okay, which I love to use our African culture, or Zambian tradition and culture. We say that when you get married, or you're growing up, you're becoming an adult and stuff like that, you're getting into marriage, usually we say, go and talk to Bashibukombe or Banabukombe and stuff like that, okay? So those people are by design counselors. They counsel you and they give you guidance. And some of them who are very good at it will work even with the people as they are in their marriage. They'll always go back and speak to them and get back. So by design, it's not really a white people thing. It's only that probably we're doing it in a way now that people have got training, they're experiencing certain areas and stuff like that. But the truth is that even in our own setup as Zambians and as Africans, we've already had people who I would say they were psychologists as well, but in our African way,
And to add more to that, the downside is now they've got content when they go to a bride to say, which one? This one.
Yeah,
he can't get it up, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess that's also part of why you really need to seek professional therapy.
That's the reason why you need to seek professional counseling and therapy. And the reality is, like, since I deal with marriages, I would say most people have challenges in the marriage. One, because they don't have good communication, okay?
Yeah.
And then how would you know? It's like what you were saying, is how am I going to raise this little human being?
Mm-hmm.
So prior to you having that child, you would have gone through some kind of training or guidance where you would have understanding to say, when we have kids, this is what we are supposed to do. For example, in marriage counseling, you'll find that many people do not really prepare themselves for the challenges that will come in the marriage, okay? I always tell people to say, ask yourself, how much money do you spend on educating yourself on how you're going to manage yourself with this person for the rest of your life? But then compare with how much money you spend doing the cars, the wedding dress, and everything.
Right.
Like, you just don't need so much to even go for premarital counseling. Maybe if you want to go to PsycHealth, and also probably even the churches, because we can't discredit those areas as well. But you try to make the comparison to say, how much money would I spend for therapy? Right. Maybe have 6 sessions or 10 sessions prior to us getting married, as opposed to the money I'm going to spend on the venue and the cars and everything. I mean, it's worth it. Yeah. And I mean, therapy, you're going to have that information for the rest of your life, by the way, okay? For the wedding day, it's just 4 hours, 5 hours. And guys, see you, stuff like that. So yes, it's not for white people, but it's for everybody, whether you're white, black, yellow, whatever color you may be. I feel we all need to be kind of like educated and guided into the new life that we're about to get into. Yeah.
Something that you touched on as well, another misconception that I have also faced is, can I afford it? Is it expensive? But the same people are granddaddies every single weekend, right?
You
Exactly.
see? Exactly.
It's the same people, and I say, if you're gonna pay for a gym subscription, you're taking care of your body. I mean, your mind is just as important, isn't it?
Your mind has to lock in to go for that physical
Precisely.
exercise. Yeah.
How much is the bottle of Jameson these days?
500 plus.
How much is Jameson?
I have brothers. A lot of brothers.
With a straight face too, you say this.
So yeah, like forgo that bottle just like one weekend, and that's therapy.
Okay, so affordable, tick. Not for white people, tick.
Tick.
Yeah.
Let's keep going down the list.
So yeah, and I think what we often hear as well is, no, I'm sure if I come to therapy, everyone will know my business. You people will talk
exactly
about
what I say.
everything, right? That
On the water
shared with
cooler, and they're like,
Uh-huh.
so this on the
exactly, right? But that is, when you go to a professional and licensed therapist, we have to abide by a very strict, code of ethics and code of conduct, right? And a big part of that is this idea of confidentiality and privacy. So we can't share any information that you've shared with us with anyone else. It's between myself and my client. That is it. In terms of privacy as well, as an organization, we go to, all our files are coded, so there's no name. You'll never walk in and say, see Elson on a folder. They're coded. The therapist is the only one who has access to their client folders. They're kept in a secure place. And even, I know sometimes I think the fear is also, as you said in the beginning, you said, if I come to PsycHealth and I speak to the admin or the person who does, even that admin, has to abide by the confidentiality and privacy, that we.
Another reason to not confide in friends.
Exactly.
Who will still go back and tell other friends to say, I guess what Musonda just told.
And sometimes, maybe there might even be a prominent person who comes in and things like that. We're very strict with that. It doesn't matter who has walked into PsycHealth. You cannot go and tell anyone to say, hey, you won't believe who came for therapy today. I saw this person, we do not do any of that. We are professionals. We are bound by a code of ethics. All of us are licensed, and within, those licensing organizations, there's a code of ethics you have to come to. So if you know anyone, or if you've ever seen a therapist who goes against that in terms of privacy and confidentiality, as the people out there, it's your responsibility to, if you can, report them, or, reach out and say, okay, I overheard this person saying this, but we take it very serious, and there are consequences if you break confidentiality and privacy. So
another one is, and it's not just African men, but men in general. We seem to think that it's a sign of weakness. Men don't need therapy. You're a guy, do some push-ups. Right? It's and once again, it reflects in the rate of suicide. It's the highest among men.
Exactly.
Which really is BS when we talk about men not needing therapy.
Exactly.
You have come across that, I'm sure, right?
Definitely. That
misconception.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, we like to say that, like we said, I think earlier, we are humans at the end of the day.
Correct.
And as a man in a society like this, there's so much pressure in different forms. There's work pressure, there's family pressure. And when I say family, I'm talking about if you're a son, you're a brother, you're an uncle, you're a parent. There's also society pressure. Funny enough, I think we were talking about this the other day, like, peer pressure doesn't end. A lot of people think you can't be talking about peer pressure
when you're this old.
That's when you were young.
Do you still have peers? Yes. So
exactly. So there's a lot of peer pressure that still exists. That is also a lot for the men in our society.
Yeah.
And also, someone said yesterday that, do you know that a man is not taught how to love? Something like that. So I said, that's interesting. I said, that's interesting. But then at the end of the day, they also have to coexist with whatever. Even if it's like a love type of relationship, it's coexisting, So they have to know how. They'll have to be in check. So the mind is responsible for a lot of that. So
you need tissue there, Gob. You're very sad. You okay? You sure?
Yeah.
And just to add on,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
to add on to what H2 is saying, I always use because she mentioned pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously men are responsible for a number of things. That means that there's a lot of things running through your head at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to make sure that you are up to standard and everything is in constant check.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we know what happens after that. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that I love to use the illustration of hypertension to say how does it come about. Okay. And many men suffer from hypertension. Then eventually it goes into stroke, and then now he can't do anything. Why? Because of the accumulated negative, experiences and thoughts that haven't been resolved. Okay, and so even then, if you say I'm a man and I can solve things, but do you have an understanding of how to manage yourself through that space? That would mean that you would have become a psychologist and you'd have learned everything that's there about a human being and how the human mind works and how it's connected to the physical body. Okay, but then that's not true. You might be an accountant who probably has no idea about hormones and all these other things. Okay, so with that said, you'll find that because of the pressure, there's that negative kind of situation and emotion, thoughts that are going round about the person, and eventually they mature into hypertension, as I mentioned, stroke, and then maybe if you're unfortunate, we bury you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So men do need what? Counseling or therapy. They do need it. If anything, they need it more so that they could actually reach out to their families and say, yo guys, we all need to be going for checkup, you see, because it's not only when you're unwell that you need to go for therapy. No, you also need to, as Chitua said, you also need to kind of like check yourself, kind of like prevent yourself from getting into that space of having issues that you don't spend so much money on treating yourself.
I've made reference to this, and before we started shooting, I was speaking to Kuba about that you guys also do deal with organizations. I have a pretty good relationship. I only repeat this because he said it publicly on a podcast. You know Oscar Chavula? None of you know him. Okay. He owns Hot FM, the radio station, amongst many other businesses. So he went through a period where he lost, is it his brother or his cousin? I forget. And Kaliwa, who also worked for Hot FM. So there was a lot of death in quick succession. And him being a boss, where everybody is looking to him, that's number one. Number two is the death also hit his family, and again everybody is looking to him, never mind his own personal loss and grief. So he kept saying, look, you're a man and these people come first. Didn't deal with any of that properly, and he said he would wake up in the middle of the night crying. Never sought help. He said that's part of me being a man, and etc., which I bring that up to say I'm not in a similar scenario where I haven't lost anybody, but I'm a business person. I have a business that has got 45 people. If any of them face any issues, the wind blows one way, which is to me.
Exactly.
I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a brother, and all this all comes your way, and you really don't have an outlet, right? So, in different aspects of your life, you do have people that look to you for different things, especially if you're a guy, like you said. And if you don't have somebody who once a week you go to, you sit, especially somebody who is able to keep track of your life, where you've been going to this person for the last 2 years, right? So you don't have to offload 2 years worth of issues. You can update them as far as only last week because you see them once a week. So they are only a week away, right? So if something does happen between, if it's between the Wednesday that you see them and the next Wednesday, and if it's an emergency session, of course you can call in, but then you only have those 7 days to sort of catch them up, which was the first question that I asked, where if it's an ongoing thing that you're sort of speaking to this person about, it kind of helps in terms of how you go through life. Without becoming a mass shooter. So yeah, the last point, as far as that's concerned, I've sort of already touched on it, which is, I don't know if this is a myth or not, but I've often heard how somebody with mental health issues cannot be productive at work. True or not true?
Definitely not true. But it's also not a yes or no kind of response. In that, we all have our capabilities as individuals that will vary, right? So Elsa and you and I might experience the same situation, but how we react and how it impacts us might differ, right? Some of us have, maybe we have more resilience than others in managing stress or managing the things that impact our well-being, right?
Yeah.
So I might be experiencing something, but the severity of that experience might not be the same as yours. So I still can be able to show up at work. I can do what I need to do at work.
Yeah.
Right? But it doesn't mean that I'm not struggling. There are people who are just able to focus on, okay, I need to work, I need to perform, and they will perform, they will work, but in other areas they might be lacking. So maybe when they go home, that's when they really feel the impact of what they're going through. When they're with friends and family, maybe that's when they feel that impact. But when they go to work, they're able to just say, okay, focus. And I'm sure we know even like people who drink alcohol have issues with alcohol. We know a lot of people who, you look at him and like, this one, he's crossed the line a bit in terms of alcohol consumption. But he's, he or she can go to work, still be functional. They might even be drunk, but they're still able to function. So we all have different capabilities, and we're all able to manage and deal with the challenges differently. But it doesn't mean that the impact of whatever it is that they're going through isn't going to be felt, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's in social life. So it might impact those areas differently.
Yeah. Do you guys have a phone number? I know it's going to be on the screen, but do you guys have a phone number that you want to say out for people to...
Based of whether we've all memorized the number.
Yeah. You can look to your phone if you can.
So if it's 0955 264 975. So again, 0955 264 975. But as I said, I think it'll be on the screen.
It will be on the screen.
But yeah, just type into Google PsycHealth, and most of that information will come up as well.
How are we doing there on time, Gob? How are we doing on time? How much have we done? How many? All right, cool. So initially for the first episode, I wanted us to do an hour. We didn't want to have like something that was a little too heavy. Perhaps moving forward, depending on the kind of topics that we're going to be covering, we can go for an hour and a half. So not only will you be able to get this on this channel, you'll be able to download the audio version on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, on Google Podcast, any of the stuff that you guys would want us to cover, that you guys would want us to talk about. You already have our details. Do get in touch with us. Let us know what exactly you would want us to speak about. I'm allowed to dream, right? But I foresee us also hosting mental health, like with a live audience. Like you go to Unza, for example, you have a couple of people and you're able to chat the way that we are. We have a couple of microphones that are going to be in the audience where people are able to ask. Then that way we don't feel like we're just talking into a vacuum, but getting that feedback. So hopefully if we do get money, we would be able, fingers crossed, toes too. We would be able to make this happen. But hey guys, listen, this has been the introductory episode. There's a lot that we left on the table. We will be able to pick this up in the next episode. You've met the team. These are the people that you would need to sort of master their faces. Moving forward, I may or may not be on the set. But yeah, moving forward, every single week, we will be bringing different topics that you guys are going through, and we'll be able to cover. And hopefully, you guys will be a lot less traumatized than you already are,
or stressed.
So yeah, I don't know if there's anything that you guys might wanna each of you close off on.
I think Chito already sort of covered this earlier, but in terms of, I think it was one of the misconceptions about, why people go to therapy, right? So it's not only if you do have problems. I think it's important to remember that sometimes therapy can also just be a place where you learn new skills. So you might be someone who maybe you've discovered, you know what, I'm not really an effective communicator. Maybe in my relationships, I don't communicate well. Therapy can help you with that, right? So it can also be if you're making a life change or career move or, things like that, and you want clarity and guidance, that can also be an opportunity for therapy. So it's not just if you, have mental health challenges or, illnesses, but it can also be for growth, for personal development. So, reach out, come through, and we're here to help you. And it's been a pleasure having this conversation, and I'm looking forward to more, I think, in-depth and more, conversations that maybe address some of the challenges that the audience might have.
Beautiful. Wow.
I would say in a changing world, we need to shed off a lot of the stigma and the discrimination that happens to a lot of these things. That's a general health issue, a mental health issue. If you're talking about bullying, whatever it is, let's shed it off together.
Yeah.
We like to say that, if you just want to come and challenge us on some of the questions that you have, come through.
Beautiful.
Let's talk about it. Let's meet halfway. Let's see how this is worth your time, even as you're doing that. So thank you as well for having us here.
Awesome.
Hope to be back.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, I would like to just encourage everyone that every time we go through stuff, there's an accumulation of negative experiences. And I love to use the example of a boil. Boil? So usually that's because there's so much bacteria and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And what happens when you squeeze that out? Sounds disgusting. What happens when you squeeze that out? You feel relieved, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same concept with the mind also, because you've been taking in so much negative energy. Could be words, could be your boss speaks too much, and you have got kids and the bills are hanging around and stuff like that. And you just have all that stuff clogged up in your head. So you might want to just check in and offload, what we call venting. You just vent to someone who's willing to listen and won't be judgmental, but will be there to walk with you through that process.
Yeah.
And I just encourage that people just take that into consideration.
Give it a chance.
Yeah, just a chance. Just one chance.
and what's beautiful again is, given how many people would come to me and ask for a phone number for a therapist, is it does not feel like we are now selling the idea of therapy. More than anything, people are now just basically looking for a home.
Exactly.
Where they are now able, for as long as they can afford it, and they are able to easily access it. I think anybody who now tunes into this is now at that level where they've bought into it. It is now just, can I easily access it? And I like the fact that you're able to go on the website, you're able to see the profiles. If you already know who it is that you want to speak to, you can then make a booking. What is the area that you guys are in again? I just know how to get this. Kalundu. What is that?
It's Roma.
Roma.
Yeah.
Roma. Yes.
Tanba Road.
It's kind of the same, Kalundu and Roma, isn't it?
Well, somehow.
It's separated by a road.
Yeah, I mean, if it was Carpenter, it would have been the same packet.
Yeah. And I think, in addition to that, yes, physically we have a location, but I think these days therapy is accessible. So a lot of people are offering, virtual sessions. So
do you guys offer
we do offer virtual sessions. So if you can't come physically, you can have a session virtually. So there's really no excuse about accessibility.
Nope.
Especially for the people who are in the other areas of Zambia.
Right, who are not able to come in physically, right?
Yeah. People have busy schedules these days, so you might not have, the time to drive somewhere.
You might have an hour over lunch.
Exactly.
You could be a boss. So as long as you can just close your office, pop up your laptop, and But anyway, I keep rambling, guys. Thank you so much for your attention, for tuning in. Again, once a week, every single week, and we still don't have a name yet. So we're gonna date a couple of names. All right. Bring suggestions. You guys can bring in a couple of suggestions as well.
Okay.
So we come up with a name. So we still gonna call ourselves the Mental Health Podcast up until we find a catchy name. Yeah. And if you're a sponsor and you want your name to be part of the podcast name, bring the money.
Yeah.
We are very happy to put your name there. But anyway,
It's a good cause, guys.
It is a good
It is.
People with money, if you want to sponsor this, please do that. I think this information needs to be out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, till next week, good people.